Josh to be back in studio, and we have a pair of great guests in studio joining me today, all the way from the Quebec region. We'll explain more about that coming up. But it's Yaya and Chelsea. They are a music duo known as Twin Flames. They have won a bunch of awards, Native American Music Awards, been nominated for plenty of awards, and they've been so kind to join me in studio this morning. Hopefully you guys had a great morning, and I know you guys are just kind of waking up and enjoying some McDonald's this morning. So hopefully that helped power you up for this interview.
Thank you. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning. So it's a very interesting story for you two. You guys kind of did your own thing in the music industry for a hot minute, and then I guess divine intervention, fate, I don't know how you want to characterize it, but you guys met on an APTN television series where you showcased musicians, and that's kind of where your story together got underway. Talk about how that kind of came about, because it's very like I said, divine intervention. It's that fate situation where two people that knew nothing about one another meet in a similar circumstance and decide, you know what, I think this is going to work.
Yeah, it's one of those things where we look back on the story, and no matter how many times we tell it, it always seems magic, because I had missed the original email to show up on that show, and at the time my life was like completely falling apart. I'd just gone through a really bad divorce and was trying to get my life back on track. So personal emails were my last thing in my mind. And so I was at home one day, like bawling on my couch, feeling like self-loathing moments, and decided to check my emails to change my mind, and saw that I had this invitation to be a part of this television series. And when I checked the date, it was a month too late. And so I was like, oh no, like maybe I missed this opportunity. So I called the lady, and she said, yeah, all the spots for the seasons are filled. Like, we loved your music. We love what you do. But, we'll keep you in mind for next year. And I just said, you know what, if there's any kind of cancellation, keep me in mind. I'm there, like, in an instant. And at the time I lived in Ottawa, and this was being filmed in Quebec City. So, at that point I took it upon myself to say, hey, you know what, like, I was going to give up music at that point, but I decided to update my website and get everything back on track. And a few days later, the lady called, and she said, there's a cancellation. Can you be here tomorrow? And so I packed up my car, and my mom and my dad babysat my kids and drove to Quebec City. And the whole length of that drive, like when we got closer and closer to Quebec City, my mom and I still laugh about it today, because the sky was pink, like bright, bright pink. And the clouds were so fluffy, but there was this huge rainbow. And, Lucky Charms, what's at the end of the rainbow? And my mom was saying something special is going to happen this weekend. Like, I can feel it. And we were like, imagine the rainbow ends at the hotel, like where we're staying. Like,
that'd be perfect.
It'd be perfect. And it literally did. So we drive up to Hotel des Premières Nations. It's in Wendake. It's a beautiful facility, built by the Huron-Wendat. And, the rainbow ended right in the driveway. And I said, I have never, ever seen this in my life. Neither had my mom.
And be your lucky charm.
Yeah, you'd be my lucky charm. And so we met that night around the campfire. It was the first time I'd been around music and music people, because my music career up to that point was very solitary, very solo. I suffered from extreme stage fright and social anxiety and all these things. So I never performed in front of people. My first album was literally just to show my kids, if they have a dream, they can do it, even if they're really scared. And so I never expected it to go anywhere. And here I was around this campfire with all these people playing music, jamming, getting to live like this dream moment, this huge production of my music. And just happened that he was singing a cover song that I knew, and I jumped in, and the harmonies were instant. So we didn't even know each other's names, and it just kind of started from there. It was like, wow.
What song were you singing?
I was singing Outside by Stained and Fred Durst.
Okay.
Yeah, that acoustic cover. And what she didn't tell you, and this is the sweet part, is before during the introductions of the whole visit, she was told that there's a Colombian, they did all the naming the crew for, it was a very big production. So they were saying like there's even a lighting guy from Colombia, and then there's this Enoch from northern Quebec. And so when we were at that fire, the lighting guy, the Colombian guy, happened to be a flutist. So he was there playing a flute, and here I am playing guitar, singing a song. She actually thought I was the Colombian guy because the flutist was short, round, dark fellow. So she thought that he was the Inuk.
Right?
So
I thought I was going to Colombia. I thought I was going where it was hot.
Yeah.
But instead, I ended up in the Arctic.
Yeah, you ended up a little bit more northern. So you guys are from different places, and you guys have different styles and culturally different. Talk about kind of the blend of the two, and talk about your backgrounds and how you were able to just kind of mesh it together and make it work and create kind of that synergy.
Well, on my part, I think for me, I can say for both of us actually, that we grew up with the old folk music, the 60s and 70s folk music, the classics, and that with that in mind, I started music really late. I could say professionally, this has been 5 years for us, and I didn't really dabble in it until then. So, just bringing in the culture aspect of my Inuit side, I wanted to get away from the typical country style Inuktitut songs that were being played, and I wanted to add a bit of modern sound to it with the language in Inuktitut. So I did that, keeping in mind that I have Mohawk relatives as well. So with the chanting and keeping it on the tribal sound in terms of percussion and style of playing. So that's what I bring into the picture.
Yeah, and for myself, I'm Algonquin Cree Métis, French Canadian, and I kind of Yayi was raised traditionally by his grandparents up in Nunavut, Quebec, so he really had the cultural aspects of his entire life ingrained into his being. But for myself, I didn't get to grow up with my culture. It was I was born in an urban city in Ottawa, and for many generations, my family was taught to keep the fact that we had Indigenous blood a secret. And like my grandmother moved away from her home community, which was neighboring to a reservation, and they were never accepted in the French community, and they were not accepted on the reservation because they weren't pure enough to be in either place. And so that kind of happened through generation, like passed on from my grandma to my mom and then to me. And for myself, it was never a shameful thing. It was more like a curiosity thing. Like, what am I missing out on? Like, I always felt like I wanted to know more. Like my mom would sing me bedtime stories, and she would even stroke my hair at night, and she said, "C'est une belle Indienne." You're a beautiful Indian. And in growing up, that was a term that was still used, not anymore, obviously today. But when you're told that your entire life, but you don't have that cultural connection to it, it was something that I really wanted to just immerse myself in. So I started meeting with different elders. I ended up getting a student job at Indigenous and Northern Affairs headquarters in Ottawa. And they had a healing center there with many elders that came through. And I still remember the first day that I walked in there because I was scared. I thought, well, I look too white. Like maybe I won't be accepted. Like maybe people won't want me there. And it was actually the total inverse. Like I was accepted right away with open arms. And I think, many of the elders were just happy that I was there sitting and listening. And I think that's when my journey truly began. Like I realized that I finally knew, and everything about it was so true to my inner being and my spirit and my blood memories, the things that my ancestors had left there for me. So I try to bring all of that into my music, like that sense of feeling pride, bringing that back, like so many of our people have gone through terrible things so that we don't feel proud of who we are anymore. And, we don't always make the best life choices because we're just trying to deal with that constant pain and that constant trauma. But I think through the music that we've merged together, we're using our personal experiences, which were not always light and fluffy and rosy, and, just telling people that, hey, we're all human. We're all human beings on this planet, and we come from different backgrounds. We come from different cultures, but we can be there on stage together in unity. We can share our songs and our stories in unity. We can share our lives in unity. And amongst our Indigenous people, there's so much divide. So that has been one of the main things in what we're doing right now is like, hey, like we can, if we come together, we will be such a bigger force to be reckoned with, right? And yeah, that's pretty much it.
So you talk about that fear of acceptance and not sure if you would be accepted, not only culturally, but you have to think also musically. You guys are, coming together. And did you guys have that fear of acceptance? And how did it feel when you started being recognized by communities and by, record companies and being accepted for the duo and having that success in a very brief period of time?
Well, for myself, I always feel, that we've worked so hard to get here. This is our thing. So whatever we're doing, wherever we are, we're the ones that put ourselves there. We also appreciate our fan base as well, because they have a huge part into this. So for us, we realize that music is subjective, and music is something that does not have a language. It does not have a religion or politic. Music is the melody itself is the language, and we use that first as a platform, and we'll see where it takes us. Obviously, in the music industry, especially in the indigenous music industry, indigenous music industry, it is very divided. Because we are all fighting for those 5 spots.
Yeah.
That one small brown box that all these industry people are putting just so that they are inclusive. So for that, we just take it in stride and say, hey, let's just do our thing and go out there. People are going to love our music regardless of where it's playing.
Yeah, and I think just being honest, right? Like, I think honesty in everything that a human being does is at the utmost importance. And with our music, we try to be very honest. With our stories, we're very open. We're very honest. We're open and honest with our fans. We're not selling an ideal of who we are. We are really, truly presenting who we are to the world. And so that fear of judgment, obviously, for myself has always been there because I didn't grow up with my culture. So if someone has been deep-rooted, living on their res, being surrounded by their culture their entire life, and then here's this person, me, that has just come into my culture, is there a bit of pushback in that situation? I have seen it, and sometimes it is hurtful, but I just try to think, you know what, everybody is going through their own battles, and sometimes it comes out in lateral violence, unfortunately. But what we try to do is, again, back to that unity thing. The first summer that we toured in the Arctic, there were many times where they would say, we don't want her on stage with you. And for me, at first, I would take it personally, like, oh my gosh, this is heartbreaking. I'm just here trying to present our music, present our love, and work with communities. But then I realized the bigger picture that it wasn't about me. It was about what my exterior represented and all the hurt and pain that comes along with what my exterior represents to many people, many of our people. And so, by just continuing our journey together, continuing to come back to communities, not just one-offs, and really building those relationships. My nickname now is Ukwak, which is in-law to the north. And so, within this short 4 years of music, I've gone from being told I don't want you on stage to you're welcome in any household in the north. And to see that change, for me, is a true testament to the power of human kindness, and we get to live it a lot. If we get one negative comment, so what? It's just focusing on the kindness and focusing on the love.
So another common thread is kind of the aspect of following your dreams and following your heart. You both kind of started a little bit later, and you didn't really know that this was going to be the avenue you were going to take, but this is where it went. What would your words of advice be to people who have a dream and have, something they want to achieve, but kind of are a little afraid to do it?
Follow it. Just follow your dream. And, with keeping in mind that it is a tough world out there. And, but if you are really wanting it, just go for it. And get yourself a supporting cast. This is something that, we're lucky that we have the two of us. And we're a team. We know what our strengths are. We know what our weaknesses are. And, practice. It's a bit cliche with Iverson, but
Sports metaphor.
but you got to work at it, and if you really want it, go for it, and don't let anybody tell you that you cannot do it. There's always going to be naysayers. Those naysayers are the ones that cannot do it. So that's usually the case.
Yeah. For me, one thing my mom has always told me was stop letting fear stand between yourself and happiness. And when I look back on my life and I think of all the missed opportunities because I was scared, that's one thing I always tell people is evaluate your fear and try to understand it so that you can conquer it, because I do that now every single day. Something that would really scare me, it's like, well, why? Okay, these are all the things that can potentially happen, but what are all the beautiful outcomes that can happen? And I think when pursuing dreams, it's very, very scary. Yayi was a police officer for 12 years, a solid, great job with a pension, and I was
perhaps the most solid of jobs.
Right? Right? And I was a federal public servant with, a great salary and a great pension and
another very solid job.
A very solid job. And so we both walked away from those careers. I'm not going to say it was easy. I literally borderline had a nervous breakdown walking away from this thing. But, it was just trying to believe that we could do it and not stopping. This is our full-time job. Most musicians these days, the reality is they have to have a second job. I mean, we're playing close to 300 shows a year. We've played over 900 shows in the past, this is going to be our 5th summer. So it's crazy, but if you want something, find a way and don't tunnel vision it. How many different ways can you be doing this? We do workshops in schools. We do, songwriting workshops. We do social media campaigns. We're literally all over the place, corporate,
merch sales,
festivals.
Finding ways to
Well, what I always tell people is if you have a dream and you're seeking advice from someone else, everyone's journey is completely different. So what worked for me is not going to work for you, and what worked for you is not going to work for them. And it is that you have that tunnel vision where somebody says to you, if you do this, you'll achieve it. Well, that's not necessarily the case. It's going to be a little different. You're going to have to take a few crossroads, and you're going to have to veer off a bit. So you can't have that tunnel vision. You have to be open to literally anything and kind of follow things as they present themselves. So, it's a great point. It's just following your dream and just being open to the idea of possibility, really. And
not fearing rejection.
That is the biggest of them all. People are insecure now these days, and it's very hard with social media.
So hard.
And you put yourself out there, especially for the two of you being together, and you put yourself out there and you're opening yourself up for criticism and rejection, and it's very tough because you get it instantly, and at a moment's notice, somebody can just say something and it completely ruin your day. And it's just it is fear of rejection. As much as we've had it before, it's just more prevalent now because rejection's instant, and it sucks.
It does, and people can hide behind their screens, right? But I think the thing is, it's very metaphorical, but the doors that open are meant to open, and the ones that close are meant to close. And we've seen that over and over again in our career. It's like, when you lose this great opportunity, at first it's like, oh, well, why weren't we good enough? Or why didn't this happen for us right now? But then you let time. Time is an amazing thing because, as time progresses, then you're able to see the bigger picture. Oh, that's why that didn't happen. But this happened instead. And, I think many of our people are losing sight of that is the strength of time and allowing yourself to have that time to let things progress and truly become what they're meant to be.
Guys, it was wonderful having you drop in this morning. Great conversation. I appreciate your time, and good luck with the summer. I'm sure you'll be very busy performing. Yaya and Chelsea, they are the Twin Flames. Check them out. You guys have social medias. Where can people find you?
Our website's twinflamesmusic.com. All our socials are on there. We have an amazing YouTube channel with documentaries and all the crazy places that we've gotten to tour. So, Chimigwich, thank you so much.